maybe you don't think the Ipswich game is preparation for PSG, but if the 16th and 17th place teams in the Premier League can make a European semifinal, why not? This is the Arsenal Vision post-match podcast. My name is Elliot Smith. Think about it. United and Spurs, if they can make a European semifinal, how can you convince me that Ipswich aren't European semifinal quality, seeing as how they're all roughly in similar league table positions? And as I record this, and sorry for the lateness of this recording, Spurs are currently losing 2-0 to Nottingham Forest, which is absolutely hilarious. Pretty incredible the seasons they are having as United lost again, this time to Wolves, who are now level with them on points. And Amarim basically went with the beatings will continue until morale improves. He said he doesn't anticipate it getting any better. And I can get behind that, like absolutely 100%. So Amarim in, Ange in, Arteta in. We win again 4-0. We will be covering that win, and we'll be covering it through the lens of what it maybe tells us about PSG, because I think, in a way, there was clear signs of preparation for PSG in what we did in this game, and we'll get into that in a moment. Be talking a little bit about some bigger picture ideas that come out of this too. And I'm excited to do it with Tim. Hello, Tim.
Hello there.
Hi. So before we do that, we're going to talk just quickly, since we did this with Phil, about United Madrid, but Clive will be on for a Patron Pod tomorrow. I believe it's going to be power rankings unless the news drags us in another direction. We did a recording with Phil fully diving into his night in Madrid, how he got there and wound up getting a ticket and what it was like sitting in the home end and just the whole thing. It's a great pod. You can listen to it. I want to tell you, if you want to join us at Union Chapel this year, we would love to see you. It is easily my favorite day of the year. And this year it has a little extra something behind it because it is my birthday as well. We're going back to Union Chapel. Andrew, James, Tim, myself, Clive, Paul will all be there. We'll be having drinks deep into the night afterwards with you. And if you'd like to join us, the tickets will go on sale for patrons on Wednesday and general sale on Thursday. I will tell you the bulk of the tickets are put aside for patrons, just because otherwise it gets to be a little bit of a nightmare with the ticketing situation because they tend to go quick. I wish it was easier for everyone to get them. But so if you are a patron, if you want to sign up right now, by the way, use code AVP. You'll spend just $3 the first month. And then you'll be able to go ahead and buy the tickets when they're released to patrons, as opposed to the next day when there, may or may not be some availability there. So either way, we'd love to have you there. We'd love to have you here. We're just happy to have you at all, as I always say, because, and this is important, it happens to be true. Here's something else that happens to be true. As of right now, we are at 96% to our goal of £150,000. You beautiful people, all 3,179 of you have given £144,883 to help children in Zaatari refugee camp on behalf of the Arsenal Foundation, on behalf of our club, on behalf of one another. And at a time when we can sometimes fall into deep cynicism, I know I am guilty of it, this is one of the truly uplifting things that makes you just stop. I was saying this to my wife the other day and go, people are good. Inherently, people and communities like this are good. But for your goodness, you got a chance to win a club level midfield PSG home leg ticket to shout yourself hoarse, backing the Arsenal to get to the Champions League final. You'll meet Clive. You'll get free drinks at halftime. All you got to do is give. Any donation counts. So there's time to do that. We are going to do that on Saturday, I think is when we're going to pick the winner of that. And I might do it on live stream just so everyone can watch and see that it's on the up and up as the random number generator does its thing. So Saturday is when we're going to pick that ticket. So please help us. We have a £150,000 matching donation. It sounds like we're going to get all £150,000 of it. So that would take us to £300,000. And by the time Andrew gives his and the $25,000 matching donation that's already been fulfilled gives his, we could be over £350,000 and funding thousands more children going through the program. It's astonishing. And I will say, good karma right now is good karma. I'm not saying that's how we're going to win the Champions League, but let's just say it can't hurt. Okay, so please give if you can. The link is in the show notes. All right, Tim, just the 4 minutes of waffle from me, which is right about on par, but I had a lot to get to there, the Union Chapel stuff, the fundraiser stuff. But I don't want to go too deep on it because we did a whole episode with Phil, and because we've got to move forward. It can't all be the past, but it's pretty important past. Just put it in context for me. You've been going home and away for decades, literally. Where's this night in Madrid for you and this tie overall as someone going to games for a long time?
Yeah. So I was there in 2006 as well, and that was pretty close.
I saw
to
the picture, top. By the way, side by side when you were there in 06 and this one. Yeah.
And I was at every game actually in the run to the final. 2006 at Villarreal as well, semi-final was there when we beat Inter 5-1. Some really really great kind of European nights. Been at quite a lot of them, and and this might be the best one, especially because it's getting to a semi-final, which we've only done like 3 times before. And the last time we went there was the first leg and we won, and it was still pretty seismic, but it was the first leg. But also I just think the way we controlled this over 2 legs, it's just, and it doesn't feel like other like good European runs or like big European nights have kind of felt a little bit one-off-ish. Like when we beat Inter 5-1, like that was the Invincibles. So obviously very, very good team, but we didn't get many European results like that. And it's not like they went and did it many other times either. It's a little bit of a one-off. Right. The 2005-6 run to the final, that was a little bit of bottled lightning. Really, we got loads of injuries, changed the formation, and it worked for us. Whereas this, and I wrote about this last week, this feels like our level. It feels like we are a team that are good enough to take Real Madrid apart 5-1 over 2 legs and go and win the second leg. And you remember I said on the pod to you before the game that like aura and all of that, like it doesn't exist. Like it doesn't. Yeah. You can definitely have like a belief that your history can give you. Aura, black magic, all of that doesn't exist. It only exists if you let it get into your head. And I did kind of think privately, I wasn't brave enough to say it before the game. I thought Real Madrid are leaning into this too much, as if like some witch's curse is going to let them win the game. And actually, as much as we joke about that stuff, it's not true. The reason Real Madrid pull off so many comebacks, have so much history, is talent. They have really, really good players, which means they get really, really good results. They have amazing individuals. That's what does it. It's not because of black magic or anything like that. And they didn't have that on this occasion. We didn't let them have it. And and just in terms of atmosphere and all of that, it really was great because we've had quite a few years out of the competition. I saw a lot of guys there, probably in their 20s or so, who definitely won't have seen a European result anywhere close to as good as and as big as this one. So time will tell, but it could be in the number 1 spot.
Yeah, really, really special. I just want to ask you one last question on the night. Like, how are the nerves for you? Because 3-0 up, to your point, like we should feel pretty confident given our talent, our preparation. And as it turns out, we had every right to feel confident. And we actually went on and won. But I was bricking it. I mean, no control of myself. And I'm sure that will come as a surprise to people who have gotten to know me over the years. But I do feel sometimes when I've gone to games, you feel that less because the energy of bouncing and singing and the environment gives you a way to expel the nerves into some kind of physical representation. Whereas sitting alone in my home watching it, which is not the way I should be left to my devices in a night like that, the nervousness just engulfs you. There's nowhere for it to go. So do you think it's a little easier actually to be there expelling the energy, or is the fact that you're closer to the energy make it even more acute?
It can work both ways. On this occasion, I think it really helped. Okay. There was just such an excitement as well, like the Bernabeu. It happens once in a generation at the moment. For us, our 2 visits there are 19 years apart, so I've been very lucky to be at both of them, but they're still like a lifetime, a whole generation apart. So, and there's a big group of, 10 or 11 of us traveling to the stadium together, had some beers in the afternoon, etc., etc. That helps as well. But I think it was kind of excitement. But what was kind of, I guess, funny about, well, the thing for me as well was we actually did like a little family break. So we were there for the whole 5 days. So I kind of had a family holiday there as well, which actually helped me like to not think too much about the game until it actually came up. But because of, I say difficulty getting in Spain, it's the law. You have to have your passport. The name on the ticket has to match your passport, blah, blah, blah. Lots of security checks on the way in. And nobody wanted to be late for this game. So everyone got in early. Like the away end was full 45 minutes before kickoff. And but so was the ultras section. And that got the nerves up a bit because they were all out for the warm up and you know, singing and stuff like that. And you never see that in England. Like in England, people generally get to their seats as late as they can.
Get as many drinks in as you can, man.
Exactly that.
Come on.
Yeah. So you don't even kind of like, so you don't get that kind of half an hour. The teams come out to warm up and everyone's whistling Arsenal and cheering their own players and all of that. So I actually, something I did, because they weren't selling alcohol in the stadium, which is fine. But I just bought a non-alcoholic beer before the game because, like, you know, I'd had like 3 or 4 anyway, so I was okay. But you know, I was just like, I kind of need to do something, you know, and so I just had a non-alcoholic beer in the concourse, which is not something I'd usually do, but I felt like I needed to do something, you know, and not to, particularly because I was sat on my own, so I didn't want to just like stand there staring at their ultras for an hour. And that helped as well. Just had, you know, friendly chat in the concourse. But no, great trip, great night. Won't ever forget it.
Ordinarily, I'm the kind of person who will sometimes just agree with something, you know, you or Clive or Paul say on the pod as a way of being friendly and moving on. But I got to say, probably wouldn't have joined you for that NA beer. You know, it's all good. But I'm glad it worked for you. Well, look, it's a historic night, but it is time to stop looking backward, at least for now. There'll be time to look back and I think relive that over and over and over again. There was a video I watched. There's been so many good comps being made. If our talent has risen, our players' talent has risen with the occasion. So has our comp makers' talent. And I watched one today that had me near tears. So I can imagine it's only going to get better and better.
Some really great kind of support as well. Particularly, I have to kind of shout out some of the guys from Ashburton Army who got the drum into the stadium. I was on the same flight as that guy actually. You know, and that's that. It's not easy to bring a drum to another country on budget airline, but it really, really worked. And yeah, it was. You know, I think the supporters really, really stepped up to it, and particularly the Ashburton Army guys. They helped create a great atmosphere in the away end.
Yeah, I mean, home and away. I thought the support was absolutely brilliant. Kudos to you guys for being heard, especially after Martinelli scored the winner. So almost as important and trying as the night in Madrid was the trip to Ipswich, or at least the journey was, what with rail replacement buses and things like that, as I understand it. Not an easy place to get to, especially on Easter Sunday. But I think where I want to start with this conversation is the front six, because it was Martinelli, Leo, Saka, Merino, Odegaard, and Rice. And it is so ironic that we just assumed Merino, Odegaard, Rice would be the midfield this season. I don't know how many times it started together, but it can't have been more than a couple, if at all. And here we are now coming up to our biggest game of the season so far. And it sure looks to me like that's who it'll be, although we don't know for sure. So I think, as weird as it is to talk about a game that was played for large stretch with 10 men by Ipswich, one of the teams that will be relegated this season from the Premier League, we had a big learning opportunity and preparation moment for the PSG tie. We don't play the weekend before PSG come to the Emirates, so it's this in Palace and that's it. I really think this was a chance for this front six to get some experience and exposure to playing together. I'm curious if you see it the same way and what your evaluation is of that group.
Yeah, definitely. I actually expected a little bit more rotation for this game. I'm not saying I'm necessarily disappointed I didn't see it. I just thought that what would happen was this would be the game where it would be like Sterling, Nwaneri, starting. There was a little bit with Ben White, I guess, but I kind of expected, and then I expected Palace to be used as the team that's playing PSG will play against Palace. But clearly, I think he wants to give them both games.
Do you think he'll do that?
Yeah,
so,
I do. I don't.
Can I just make one point about that?
Yeah.
If he does that, that means Thomas Partey, who I think will be important in the return leg, is going to go like 2 weeks basically without any football, which is an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I could see him come because he didn't even come on in this game, did he? I could see him coming on against Palace, perhaps giving Rice 60 minutes again and kind of getting him off. But I don't think there'll be much rotation because I don't think he'll want them going into that PSG game without a game in 10 days kind of behind them. So, but clearly there's a reason he did that. Like, I don't think it's because he didn't want to rest players. I think the exact point you make, I think he wants that kind of front six together. We haven't seen it as much. I have to say, I'd said all along that And look, I'll eat humble pie on this because Merino's been fantastic up front, particularly the last kind of few games or so. But I said from the start, I kind of wanted him and Trossard almost as like a partnership. And I think we saw that a bit. Merino was getting into the box. His assist for the second goal is unbelievably good. As well, and thinking, because then you've got that outlet if you need it, and you can swap them over if you want to go long. But definitely that was a trial run for PSG, and I think the fact that Thomas Partey doesn't even come on kind of tells you that as well, because I don't think there's any specific problem with his fitness that I'm aware of. So yeah, I think that was, and I think really that's what the Premier League games are now, and that's kind of a luxury we have. We'd rather not have it because we'd rather be in the title race, but our competence in basically sewing up second place has given us the breathing space to do that. So it's kind of a reward, I guess. But all of these Premier League games now, they're either going to be trial run for upcoming Champions League game or rest players before or after Champions League game. Like that's that could help us in this competition. It could help us that we're on a bit of an island in second place, that we're not in a title race. But to your point, PSG are probably in the same boat because they've got the league wrapped up. So, but yeah, I absolutely saw this as trial run, except for the fullbacks who I think were just properly rested. I think we know that Timber and Lewis Skelly are going to start both legs, fitness permitting.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. And we'll get to the red card in a moment, but this was before the red card, as one-sided a game as we've played this season, home or away, in my estimation. I may be forgetting something, but I don't think so. I mean, we were touching 90% possession at one point. That just doesn't happen. Even the best teams against the worst teams, that doesn't happen. And it looked like it could have been a 10-0 if a couple of players had been a little sharper in front of goal. Bukayo Saka, ironically, one of them. But we'll get to what I make of the Saka performance in a minute, because I think it was excellent and exciting in some ways. I think the thing that everybody wants to sort of observe is Rice in the 6, Merino in the 8. And we haven't seen Merino play that role much. I think we've covered on this pod so many times we don't need to restate it again, just how much moving to strikers actually helped him at Arsenal. But the funny thing about seeing him play the 8 in this game is that I don't know that he did much different than how he played 9. And this was almost like an 8/9.5 type performance. And if you look at the way Mikel has wanted this role to function since Xhaka left, and you look at Kai, and to some extent Rice, and you look at Merino, and I think this is sort of the plan all along, because the thing that's going to astonish you statistically about this game, Mikel Merino played quote unquote in midfield, right? So a different role than he's been playing. Okay, here's how his different role panned out. Mikel Merino in 56 minutes completed 13 passes. Raheem Sterling in 18 minutes completed 12. Okay. He completed 13 passes as a midfielder, so to speak, in a team that completed, 752 passes. He accounted for 13 of them. So, I mean, it just tells you how off the ball that role is. By the way, I'm not using that as a negative because we're going to come to it. And by the way, that's borne out in touches as well. He had 29 touches. Ethan Nwaneri had 28 in half as many minutes, right? So I do think this is such an interesting one, Tim, because it's telling him win tackles, win duels, get by the box, flicks, one touch, play with tempo, speed it up, and try to get men in behind it. He was doing that brilliantly. This was a masterful performance in the 8 without ever feeling like he was really playing in midfield to me.
Yeah, those are like Erling Haaland numbers, aren't they? Like they're number 9 numbers, and that is, I think we as a fan base completely understandably have struggled to get to grips with what this role is, because no one's really been able to do it. Well, I guess Jacques did, but I think he did it really well. But I think he was missing a couple of the kind of elements that Mikel really wanted, like box crashing. Like, I don't think it's coincidence that Havertz and Merino have been the ones he's gone and bought, who are going to probably score you more goals than Granit Xhaka can. And then Declan Rice has done it. But we've got a host of players who just haven't quite got it. Like Smith Rowe, he didn't really like him there. Fabio Vieira didn't really like him there. I don't think they had the physical profiles that he wanted for the position. Even Kai Havertz. It wasn't until Havertz moved up front, really, that he became the player that we now know. But what is kind of interesting is that I kind of think, and I think I said this last season with Havertz, is that actually whether playing 9 or that left 8, and this goes for Merino as well, it's essentially the same position. They're essentially playing in the same areas. The difference is more the starting point. So like when they're playing up front, they drift out towards the ball, kind of away from the penalty area. Whereas when they're playing midfield, it's more of a running towards the play, almost like Jude Bellingham, like box crashing type role. But really, they're ending up in the same place. I guess the difference is if they're playing up front, it's with their back to goal. And if they're playing in midfield, they're facing forward a little bit more. But it's low touch. It's high on duels, tackles, and all of that. But the actual assist from Merino as well is absolutely unbelievable, and he's a spare man in the box as well. And yeah, honestly, like it kind of washed over me that he was playing in midfield. Really, not until we're having this conversation. Like I couldn't honestly say I noticed him like really standing in many different positions or doing much very, very different. It didn't feel like, oh, Merino's in midfield now. It was just like I'm kind of used to seeing him where I was seeing him, and I guess also when you've got Trossard is a much less fixed player. He's going to be, look at where Trossard is for the second goal, is it? Like he picks it up on the right wing. Like he's going to drift a lot more across the front. And so that kind of makes Merino the striker. I mean, that's what happens for the second goal, right? Like Trossard picks the ball up on the halfway line on the right wing and Merino's the one in the area. So yeah, a lot of kind of quite interesting interrelationships there.
Yeah, agreed. It's one of those things with Mikel Merino where I feel like he's on the same trajectory coming of age at Arsenal that Kai was. You mentioned Kai, and it's like played in midfield, didn't work out. People were frustrated, moved to striker, was excellent there, and just started to immediately feel like one of the players of our season and was embraced by the fans. And it all started to turn around. Had a great song, right? Kai's got a great song. Merino moves to striker, resurrects his Arsenal career, scores important goals, great song, feels like part of the group now. And I do think, by the way, I owe him an apology for maybe, I never write players off, but I certainly harshly judged him and his capabilities. And I think there's sort of a fine line to walk here because it is a reminder that these players do need time to adapt, especially when they come in and they're injured right away. And, they're playing in a very different system, in a very different league with very different tempo. So they deserve patience, and it is a fine line because I think our responsibility on this pod, or whether you're just posting at someone on social media, is to analyze what you see. I don't think the only good analysis is, well, let's be patient. Like, is anybody saying let's be patient with Raheem Sterling? No, because we think we're pretty confident he's crap. If he goes and scores the winner against PSG in the return leg to send us to the Champions League final, are people going to be going, and you were mean to Sterling all season? Well, he was crap all season. You know what I mean? So you do have to say what you see, but I think in Merino, some of the things we saw in the scouting video and over the summer that we talked about him, that we didn't see early on, the instinctive one-touch play, the duel winning, he's really come around to it now. And I think giving him the 9 has freed him up to say, hey, don't try to have 40 passes or 50 or 70 passes in a game. Try to have 15, but make them first time that set up chances. And, use your physicality and trust your duel winning. He had 10 duels won in this game, by far the most. The next closest Arsenal player was William Saliba with 5, and Saliba played the whole game. Merino played just 54 minutes and had 10 duels won. So we're seeing now, right, the quick, instinctive play around the box, the end product. He should have had a headed goal, to be fair, and the duel winning. And I couldn't be happier. But another thing we got to observe in this game, Tim, was the return of the triangle on the right that had been so exciting for us before White got injured and Timber came in and made that position his. Ben White gets a start. Feels like an eternity ago that Ben White was starting at right back regularly, and was, arguably one of those players who'd be in any player of the season type conversation. He starts, and I have to say Odegaard and Saka looked very good. Now, Odegaard and Saka may have looked very good because Ipswich have pants and played for an hour with 10 men. But I also think that there's something about that those relationships that are very instinctive and looked very natural. So what do you make of the right-hand side? Odegaard looking a little better. I mean, his numbers were great. The comps of him, I think you could see he had a really strong game. Saka looked close to exploding. And there's Ben White at the heart of it again. So what do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, put it this way, the Ipswich left back quit on it. That was an I want out kind of
Do you want to just deal with it now then really quickly?
Yeah.
Just it's red. He's not trying to play the ball. His stud's up on the Achilles, and his manager said the same thing, by the way.
Yeah. I think it was out of frustration as well. And the weird thing about this game as well, and there are a lot of games like this in the Premier League at the moment, just because the way the tables turn out, there's no jeopardy in it. Ipswich know they're down. We know we're finishing second. Like there was very, very little kind of tension or jeopardy in the game. And
does that, do you think, by the way, make it easier for a referee like Kavanaugh, who has previous with us that isn't very positive, make it easier for him to make a big call like that because there's nothing riding on it?
Maybe. I did think I'd have to see it again. I think he had his hand on his ear. Yeah. I think, and I hope so, because this is what VAR should be for. But I think someone was in his ears like, that's a red card. That's just show the red, right? Don't mess around. I hope that happened, because that, for me, that is like serious foul play is the only, for me, flawless use of VAR. Which makes it all the more maddening that they won't use it. But I think there was maybe a bit of that. I think Leif Davis quit on the game. I think it was just like, what's the point of this? We've already lost. We're already down. I wouldn't mind a 3-match ban, to be honest with you. So yeah, I kind of think that. But with the right hand side thing, it makes you realise like that has been the staple of the Arsenal team for like one of, if not the staple, isn't it? Odegaard and Saka you're dealing with, probably two of our, one of them definitely our best player. And it just reminds you we haven't had it. Like we've barely had it at all, like the whole season. And it's like putting like an old pair of trainers on or something, like just like nice and comfortable. And I think also like we've talked about our injuries this season, but I was talking about the fullbacks being rested. Like those basically we came into the season, I think, with White and Calafiori as our first choice fullbacks, and we've lost both of them. And we haven't talked about it because we haven't had to, because Timber and Lewis Skelly have come in and both done such an amazing job. So like as much as we've talked about injuries, there are another two big ones there that barely even figure in our calculations, because essentially like it's a victory for squad depth, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you could see pretty much everything was going down the right hand side again, and whether that was the game plan or whether it was just instinct again. And given that little pod has been split up for quite a while as well, like it's all the muscle memory is still there. And one of the things I love as well is we're talking about Merino, low touch, kind of low, but what important one touch, blah blah blah. But Martinelli scores on the back post as well. Like that's another thing I love about it. All the build up on the right, ball comes in, it's Merino and Martinelli, one touch each, and it's a goal. And that for me was a bit like, this is how the team used to work, type thing. But yeah, I mean, Ipswich had no answer to any of our players, basically, but they especially didn't have any answers there. And it was really impressive, and it's one of those things that I guess makes me excited for next season as well, because bless him, I think Ben White, sorry mate, Timber's been so good that this almost just like not gives you an excuse, but like Ben White I think will play the Premier League games, but Timber's going to be the guy like when it's PSG, Champions League. But next season that's going to be a fight. Again, that's going to be a real fight, and we could have that pod back next season, almost like a new signing.
So I had this as a talking point, and I wrote it out sort of cheeky in my notes and then posted on social media, which I shouldn't have done because obviously I hate myself in my mentions. But is Ben White becoming a squad player? And it sounds crazy, right? He's one of our best players. He's been one of our best players over the last few seasons, but at least in terms of shutting down opposition wingers, Timber is special. I still think Ben White is probably better in the attacking half than Timber. Better might not be the right way to put it, but maybe slightly more effective. I think he can get beat in ways that we don't see Timber get beat. But this is a really fascinating one for me, Tim. And I think it'll be an interesting question of Ben White's makeup because he's obviously a very serious guy. And we know he can be very specific about how he wants to be spoken to and treated with the decision he made over England camp, right? And Steve Holland and all that. This is going to be a battle, to your point. I think we may see games where Timber starts at left back and Ben White starts at right back, because Miles Lewis-Skelly still won't even be, in his 20s next season. Probably shouldn't play every game. It does give us a chance to rotate. Ben White's had some injury concerns, so that's good. But what is Ben White's role? Is it horses for courses? Is he going to play a little center back and right back, and Timber plays a little right back and left back? How do you see that battle shaking out? Because it's almost too much talent for one of them to play 90% of the games and the other to play 10%,
Yeah. I think that's one of those things you just let the season go and see how it works out. I don't think it's something you can really plan because so much stuff happens and injuries happen and blah, blah, blah. And then people get into form and they come out of form. Little things can happen in a team sometimes. Someone might just play somewhere for 7 or 8 games because it works and then it never happens again. Type thing, particularly that kind of stuff happens in the second half of the season a lot. That's what I mean about the White Timber thing now. Like, this isn't the stage of the season where you really start changing things too much. So, Ben White will get his Premier League minutes to get his fitness back up, etc. But it's going to be one hell of a battle. And we're going to be the beneficiaries of that, basically. But we might have like another big centre-back injury next year or something. And then, you might have Ben White at centre-back or something. And that might happen for 3 or 4 months for all we know. So I think it's just something that you can't think about that too much in the long term. I think you just have to let events take over. And yeah, again, in terms of, I know I'm fond of this analogy, but with the kind of competition, it's the Dark Knight scene, isn't it? It's the snapping the pool cue on the knee and saying we're going to have tryouts and you let them fight it out. And ultimately as well, there's one thing we probably did this season is we probably underestimated the impact of those extra Champions League games. And I think particularly in fullback, like, you need to be rotating given what we ask of them and given the number of fullback injuries we've had. So I'm happy to just let them fight it out. I really am.
Yeah, maybe you're right that it'll be a case that like next season, home to a newly promoted side is Ben White, but away to City is Timber, and home to Zagreb in the Champions League is Ben White, but away to Barcelona is Timber. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying White plays the easy games, Timber plays the hard games, because let's remember, one of the things that's derailed Arsenal this season isn't the hard games. It is the quote easy games, right? And our ability to get goals that lead to 3 points against teams that bunker. I think we've lost 4 times all season across all competitions or something like that. So it's, or the Champions League and the Premier League, whatever it is. So it's the draws we need to get rid of. And it's not really the draws in the big games. It's the draws in the smaller games to get rid of. So it may be the case that Ben White gives us an ability to be more effective in those games, but Timber is the guy for the sterner test. This season, I think the way it plays out, pretty simple. Timber's going to play the Champions League and Ben White's going to play the Premier League, at least for the next few weeks. Maybe not against Palace, but like against Bournemouth, I don't think Timber will play. So we'll see. One thing that I think is interesting about the way this season's going to finish out now is at least this next game against PSG, Rice is going to play the 6 and Merino's going to play 8 and Odegaard's going to play 8. It's a fascinating opportunity to just get a glimpse under the biggest pressure in the biggest moments of whether Declan Rice at 6 is something that we want to really lean into. It's not a huge window into it, and I don't think we necessarily want to take him out of the 8 where he's risen to a level that I don't even know if we knew he could get to. But what do you think of that? I mean, very hard game to judge that role because Ipswich had so little of the ball and then we're down to 10 men. But any thoughts on that? Rice playing 6 in our biggest game of the season so far and whether that position is in his future for Arsenal?
Yeah, because one of the things that's interesting about it as well is obviously when he plays there, the 6th position at Arsenal is really a right 6, isn't it? and
Yeah.
then the left back comes across
Yeah,
to be
because
a
he
left
can
six.
double pivot it a little bit or stay high.
Yeah. So
or Miles Lewis-Skelly just steps in one or the other.
well, indeed, yeah. So that's probably what will happen, right? It'll almost be like a Lewis Skelly Rice double pivot. But what's interesting then is that Rice will veer more to the right, and I know that's something Clive's talked about, right? Like again, future proofing. Can we get Rice on that side? Maybe doing some of Saka's running for him, so that we can perhaps leave Saka up a little bit, or let Saka wander around. I mean, Clive said it himself on the last pod about Saka being the centre forward. You look at the goal he scores against Madrid, like that's a centre forward run. So, there could be a bit of a glimpse into the future there. I mean, I think Ipswich are, is very difficult to judge there. But I mean, looking at what PSG have got, they've got bags of speed in transition, and having Declan Rice at the base of the midfield, I'm quite comfortable with that against a team like PSG, particularly because what's the left winger's name? Is he Georgian?
Kvaratskhelia?
Yes, yeah. He plays on the left, doesn't he?
Yep, him and Barcola or Doué. I mean, they can play any of them there, but I think it'll be maybe Doué off the right and Kvaratskhelia off the left with Barcola on the bench, probably.
Yeah. So I'm happy with Rice being over on that side, to be honest with you. So I'm fine. I think Declan Rice could play anywhere, really. I would have, after Merino, he might have been my choice up front as well. And it's a bit like if we ever have like a centre back crisis, I play him at centre half. I really just think he's a player you could play anywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's funny. Arteta's comments after the game about it referenced it as a necessity because of who was available. He didn't want to make it sound like, well, that can be his position too. He very much spoke about it, I thought, as like this is a product of circumstance, not what I see as the player's future role,
Yeah, exactly. And so it's really interesting. Like, I still think it will be a bit, sometimes it will be Rice left 8, sometimes it will be Rice 6 with Merino left 8. Like, I do still see it as a little bit of a roundabout, but again, it's another thing where, just like Merino, other than the fact that he was more over to the right, I couldn't honestly tell you that I saw a lot of difference in Declan. It was just Declan Rice, basically. So I was kind of fine with that. I think I understand some of the concern. Not necessarily. I don't think people have a problem with like his passing, but maybe like the tempo of it, the turn and like I guess the delivery and the smoothness and all of that. I guess the mechanics more than anything, and I do kind of get that, but I don't know. It just doesn't really jump out at me, I have to say. Maybe that's just my eye. But yeah, that like he's so good that I don't, as long as he's on the pitch, I don't mind, basically. And Partey is pretty slow. It's always been pretty slow. Like, his positioning this season has been good enough to make that a bit of a kind of not
He's
a
shown
huge
some
problem,
burst recently. I'll give him his due. Something's up.
But PSG are rapid, so like I'm fine with it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And by the way, if you want to know more about PSG, Julien Laurent is coming on the pod. We're going to have a Patron pod on Wednesday with Julien Laurent previewing the PSG tie. And then the plan is obviously to get that out for everyone at some point before the tie. But Wednesday, you'll have a Patron pod with Julien Laurent previewing that tie. And he is an Arsenal supporter, but he is a PSG supporter at his core. So I think we'll get a very interesting perspective from him on that. Arteta on Declan Rice playing the number 6. He can play in the 3 positions in midfield. This is what I was saying. Today, we have to play him as Jorginho is still out and Thomas Partey couldn't start the game. So that was really the reason. I'm not thinking about anything else than that, but I thought he was exceptional there. That's pretty unequivocal. That's kind of trying to say Declan Rice is not my 6. Declan Rice is my 8. I wasn't thinking about anything else but that. He had to play there because other players weren't available. I think that's interesting. Before we talk about some brands, because I know people are like, get to the brands already. Come on. Bukayo Saka, I just want to touch on this. This is a nearly game for Bukayo. Should have had an assist, probably. A brilliant assist when he got to the byline and cut back. Very unlucky. Was it his corner, too, that Merino heads wide? Or did it come back and it was a cross at that point? I can't quite remember, but it was from a corner. Merino header over excellent Saka corner is the note I had here on 24 minutes. So yeah, could have had a couple assists. Should have had 2 goals. But Tim, I have to say, this is where results-based analysis won't get you anywhere, because I thought this was the first time, as brilliant as he was against Madrid, this was effervescent Saka. This was, you can't stop me, I'm too good for you, Saka. Playing with swagger and confidence and a coolness and decision-making around the box was absolutely scintillating. And look, it's Ipswich, not Madrid. So yeah, he was probably better against Madrid if you adjust for the level of difficulty. And the goal was beautifully taken against Madrid, unlike here. But this was every club in his bag, and it just didn't quite come off for him. I think it's a great sign, Tim. I think he looks fully back. He played through the ankle problem. Mikel said he dodged any bullets there, and that's a big bullet dodge, because if you look at the stills of that, it could have been very bad. And he said he wanted to play. Mikel said he wanted to play. I couldn't have kept him out. So I think this is full steam ahead for Bukayo Saka. Very, very encouraging day all around.
Yeah, absolutely. And, he has those couple of shots, doesn't he, straight after the red card. And it's kind of an irony or a double-edged sword, because I think in one respect he gets those shots because, like, when I say he's angry, he's channeling, right? He doesn't have a go back at anyone. He doesn't kick anyone. I think this is another thing that's really impressive about Arsenal and Madrid as well. They did not respond to any of the provocation at any point. They channel it into the ball, into, going and getting the ball and hurting the opponent that way. So, the fact he has 2 shots straight after, I think was, there's a message there. But at the same time, I think perhaps he doesn't quite connect with them, because that was a pretty sore one. And perhaps he does. But, again, the first 2 goals, it looks like he's walking past the Ipswich player. I mean, he's clearly not. And again, it's one of those things. He's such an odd player sometimes, because it kind of does and it doesn't jump out at you. I think it's so effortless, and there's so little pomp around it, that him just taking the ball and burning past the fullback. And by the way, on his right side as well, no problem. Just, I'll beat you inside, outside, doesn't matter to me. Very happy to put the cross in with my right foot, and that makes him so hard to defend as well. And yeah, I think this was the first time because Bernabeu, he was kind of in and out a little bit. He's always dangerous, but at the same time, it's got a completely different context because we're 3-0 up. So of course we're not funneling the ball to him every 5 minutes, every 5 seconds, like we're holding on to something. Whereas here, where we're so dominant and we keep going down that side, we keep finding him, keep giving him the ball. I do think Ipswich were doubling up on him when it was 11 men. It just didn't matter, quite frankly. And yeah, I think this was as close as we've got to, I don't know, the pre-injury Bukayo Saka. And I think a lot of Arsenal fans probably didn't want to see him start this game. I thought he'd come on as a sub, but I thought Sterling might play or something like that. But I think you can see this game was very useful for him in terms of, building his fitness back up. And I know people will be worried because of the tackle. And of course, it's not, I don't think people are worried that Saka's going to get tired. I think it's more that worried he's going to get kicked and miss a game, which, that's definitely a risk. But yeah, he was sensational in this game. He was, I mean, like I said, Ipswich couldn't come close to any of our players really, but specifically Saka, it was like a dad playing with his kid in the garden or something, and just taking the mick.
Yeah, Leif Davis had one of those performances that almost reminds me of the bad old days of when Dan Smith would break Diaby's leg because he was just too skillful for him, and he said, "Screw this." And by the way, I am not comparing Leif Davis's challenge to what Dan Smith did to Diaby. Very different types of challenges, but the same kind of thing of I'm not good enough. I don't belong on this pitch with you. It's upsetting to me, and I'm going to have a go at you. And that's what it reminded me of. This was an absolute annihilation, by the way. I mean, this was 70 touches in their box to 5 touches in our box. Okay. This was 462 passes in their half to 58 in our half. This was 2.55 XG to 0.17, 75% possession, and it probably would have been more than that if we needed it to be. It was a blowout. And I have to say, maybe Bukayo Saka's absence did one positive thing for us, is I think it gave Martinelli a chance to feel like the man again and an important part of the attack again and get his form back. Martinelli in scintillating form, 5 shots in this game, scores a goal, coming off the goal at the Bernabeu. He could not have picked a better time to be rediscovering the best levels of his game. And it's all starting to click. It's all starting to click. We're going to talk a little bit about it. It's all starting to click because I want to ask you a question about that, Tim. But before I ask you a question about that, I will simply say that if you want to watch stuff that you can't watch where you are, you need to do it with NordVPN. NordVPN is an app. You put it on your device, you click, and you browse in other locations. You know, you can watch episodes of shows that come out like a year before they come out where you live. There was a show I was watching with my wife. We loved it. But the US didn't get the season until like a year later. Just use the VPN. We started watching it. Brilliant. You can watch the match reviews of the day show. You can watch those geo-locked commentaries from other places where the commentary is better than the place where you are. So NordVPN is easy. It also has threat protection. If you're going to be on a dodgy stream, you got to have the threat protection. Let's be honest. Grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan and 4 additional months on top. 4 additional months. That's a lot of months. It's a third of a year. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. NordVPN.com/ArsenalVision. Do it now. Remember, promo codes are all on our website as well. Shopify is the e-commerce platform where you can build a professional-looking e-commerce site, but all you have to care about is your product. If you want a business that says, established in 2025, Shopify can get you there. I built Shopify sites. The thing I love, you don't have to be a tech expert to integrate it to Facebook, integrate it to Instagram, integrate it to the social media platforms where you need to be selling these days. You don't need to build some special code for it to do that thing that professional sites do. Like, hey, it looks like you were shopping for this. Do you want to check out? Or, hey, you're buying this. Maybe this is something you should add to your cart, or figuring out what the shipping should be or what the tax should be. You just pick the pictures, you write the description. It takes care of the rest. It is easy. It is powerful. And more Fortune 500 companies are using it. I mean, it's an incredibly high quality looking site. So people trust your product and trust your site. Established in 2025 has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Sign up with your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ArsenalVision, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/ArsenalVision and start selling with Shopify today. Shopify.com/ArsenalVision. Do it now. And this is a paid advertisement from BetterHelp. BetterHelp is therapy. It's not online therapy. It's therapy that happens to be online. When I did therapy in a room with a therapist, and I could not recommend it highly enough. And if that's what works for you, and if that's what you have access to, you should do it. But it's not something everyone can do. Not everyone can drive. My mom can't. Not everyone has the time to drive to an office, to see a therapist, to find the right one. What if it isn't really a click for you? What if you don't click with that therapist? You just keep going because that's the one you're driving to? Do you have to get childcare to do it? Therapy is about building a support network. My wife is my support network. My parents are my support network. My friends are my support network. You listening are part of my support network. But it's not your job to help me through some of the things I need to work through. You can have a support network with BetterHelp. With over 5,000 therapists in the UK already, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise in mental health. Build your support system with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/vision. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/vision. Do it now. And last but not least, certainly not least, Indeed. Indeed is a hiring partner. We can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Here's the thing. The internet is getting worse and worse and worse. And the idea that you should have to go to 42 different websites to know how to do one thing is silly. Like, if you're trying to hire, you'll spend more time posting your job on multiple job sites than you do just putting it on Indeed. Now, you can get sponsored job posts on Indeed, and they work. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for relevant candidates, so you reach people you want faster. And it makes a huge difference because according to Indeed data, sponsored jobs directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. That's a lot more. It's 5% more than 40%, and 30% more than 10%, and 45% more than 0%. That's a lot of percents. I think I got all that right. Plus, with Indeed, sponsored jobs are no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts. You only pay for results. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners to this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ArsenalVision. Just go to Indeed.com/ArsenalVision right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/ArsenalVision. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring Indeed. All you need, Tim. Is that enough of that?
Indeed.
Yeah. Look, I should mention again, if you go to our website, we have all the promo codes on our site. So you can just look for them there. So even if you're listening to the ad-free version on Patreon, you can still get the promo codes if you want them. Tim, I'm going to say something. It's not a jinx. Nobody accuse me of jinxing. Please, jinxes aren't real anyway. But I felt coming out of this game that maybe the dark clouds of the bad period are lifting. This season has been a tough one. In that every week going into the game, it started to feel like, what player are we going to lose, or what really crappy decision is going to cost us this week? And by the way, we're not far from that. We've had some of that even relatively recently. We lost Gabby relatively recently. We've had the bad decision against Everton relatively recently. But just with the way the Madrid tie went, and Saka making it back and being in form, Ben White's back now, and Merino working out at 9, and just some of the way things are playing out, and the penalty decision being overturned at the Bernabeu, and we get the red card this week. I just feel like for the first time in a long time, it feels like whether we win or lose is decided by the merit of what we do on the pitch more than the variance and vagaries of luck or bias or incompetence. And that's a great feeling. And I'm wondering if you're connecting to that too, because if you ask me what's hurt this season for me from an enjoyment standpoint, you cannot enjoy football if you go into it presuming something's going to be taken from you. You just want to go watch it and believe, hey, it's our tactics, our talent against their tactics, their talent. May the best team win, hopefully us. And it hasn't felt that way enough this season. And maybe for the first time, I'm not going into games with that fatalistic feeling. Am I alone on an island there? Or are you getting a little of that? Is it starting to feel a little bit more like normal
spring.
Service resumed? Yeah. Yeah, spring.
Spring has sprung. Yeah, definitely. And look, that kind of... And that's where Europe's been really good, right, this season. Because it's not just the Madrid game, by the way. We've been brilliant in Europe this season. We stuffed Sporting Lisbon away. Got a really good point at Atalanta. Really, really difficult circumstances. Completely thumped PSV away. Like in Europe, I think has shown our level, what our level actually is. And, but I think the Madrid result was probably the first time there's enough endorphin kind of release around that to kind of bleed into the Premier League games a little bit. And this very much happened again in 2006. It was earlier in the season. It was like February, March. But we were awful in the league, and beating Madrid changed it all, and the form completely flipped in the league after that, and sometimes those games can give you that little boost. But yeah, definitely, like, few players coming back, and a player actually being sent off against us for serious foul play without too much brouhaha either. Just like, yeah, red card, get off. And I think probably playing into that a little bit is the lack of tension around the league games. Do you remember this time last year I was kind of saying we beat Chelsea 5-0 at home, and this isn't a criticism, like, it was just the way things were, and we didn't enjoy it because it was the title race. So like stuffing Chelsea 5-0 was incidental. It's like, we've won. Oh my God, we've won. Like, we beat Spurs away this time last year, and again, it didn't really feel like the bragging rights thing happened, because it's like, oh my God, we have to win every single game and get every single point and try and go for the title. And obviously I want that back. I want that tension back. But I think the absence of that probably, is giving us like a slightly warmer and fuzzier feel. But I do feel like that. And I do think as well, like, whether you want to call it luck or anything like that, or something perhaps less stigmatized, it does happen. It happens with injuries as well. Like, I promise you, Elliot, Liverpool are not having this next year with injuries. They're just not. And I'm not accusing them of anything, or saying, like, they've had a good season for injuries. We had one last year, right?
Yeah.
But you don't.
We went to 89 points. If Liverpool gets 89 points, credit to them.
Yeah. And we kept all our key players fit last season, but like, it doesn't happen for 2 seasons, and Liverpool will know that very well as well, because they've been on this longer than us. And like, you look at their league position, you can spot the seasons where they have injuries. So like, I do believe, and I don't believe there's any like cosmic force guiding this, but like, I kind of believe in the idea that sometimes you choose some bad luck and sometimes you choose some good luck. And we're due some good luck. We're due some. It's again. It doesn't mean that we're necessarily going to have a completely clean bill of health next season, but we've had like again. I've cited this before, but like when the women's team 2 seasons ago had 4 ACLs in 4 months, and on average in women's football you get 1 ACL injury per season in your squad. Arsenal had none for 3 years and then got 4 in 4 months.
Yeah,
and that's just the way it happened. Or sometimes you look at mid-table teams' results, right? And we were talking on the train back on yesterday about Crystal Palace. Like Crystal Palace, like always finish 12th, 13th, right? But what's fascinating to me about the way they do it is you'll get 10 games where it's like, oh, Palace haven't lost for 10 games. Could they get into your? Oh no, Palace haven't won for 10 games. Might they get relegated? Like they seem to like have these big chunks, but where you look at it over the season, they're just mid-table. They just, instead of doing win, loss, draw, they do like they just do these kind of sequences. And so I do kind of believe that happens, and that you have good seasons, you have bad seasons, but both of those things end. They don't go on forever. So I guess I'm saying completely clean bill of health next season. And look, it doesn't mean much for our league season, but we're playing for something pretty massive at the moment, and rounding into some nice form with some good availability. Perhaps we will look back on this with years to come as, you don't get 4 months off when you're injured because you work very hard to come back. But do you know what I mean? Maybe we look at this in a few years and go, actually, Saka kind of missing a couple of months probably helped us because he rounded into his best form in May and we went and won the Champions League because of it.
Last season, maybe, just maybe, if we don't get past Porto, and we're all furious about it, maybe we beat Aston Villa at home because it's not between the 2 legs of Bayern and we're Premier League champions. And no one's complaining about being knocked out by Porto because we're Premier League champions. This season, the fact that bad refereeing decisions and injuries knocked us out of a league title challenge, guess what? That's why we could rotate for Everton before Real Madrid and rotate for Brentford between the legs of Real Madrid. And by the way, being knocked out of the FA Cup sucks. It's why we don't have a game the weekend before PSG, and we have a full week's rest before them. So these dumb things that feel lucky or unlucky in the moment play a role. Would Arsenal have gotten Wayne bridged? Would they have been knocked out by Chelsea if they weren't trying to be invincible in 2003-04? I don't think so.
They were in the FA Cup semi-final.
FA Cup semi-final. Was it United?
Yeah.
So I mean, these are puzzle pieces, but you don't see the puzzle till the end.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so maybe right now it feels like, oh, wait a minute. This puzzle felt like it was making a pretty crappy picture for a while there. None of the pieces felt like they should have fit together the way they did. But for the first time, they feel like they're fitting together, maybe slightly, kind of, as they needed to.
Yeah, even you look at, you said we don't have a game the weekend before PSG because we're out the Cup. It's actually not. It's actually because it just so happens we're playing Crystal Palace and they are in it.
Oh, they're in the Cup. That's even right. You're right, because there's Premier League games at the weekend. It's that Palace happen to be in the semifinal. If Palace don't make the semifinal, we're playing Palace at the weekend. And we have 3 days rest before PSG. You're right. It's even more ridiculous.
Indeed. And it also probably means, to be honest, like, are we going to face a rotated Palace team as well? Like at the Emirates, so I wouldn't be surprised if they have half a night. So, like, little things they can go against you, but those little things that you have no control over. By the way, like, all of those things add up, and they add up in both directions. Yeah. And it would listen. League, I think nearly every card has turned against us, but maybe the flip side of that is that things go away in the Champions League. Like that, I think we'd deserve that, but obviously I would say that.
Yeah. I thought some squad players stepped up and played well in this game. By the way, I think Zinchenko had a pretty good game. I mean, it's an easy game. It's not a game that tests where he's weak, but I thought he was good. But one that really stands out, obviously, is Leo. It's an hour into a pod where he was the man of the match and had a brace, so we haven't talked about him, just your standard ArsenalVision podcast. But Leo is an interesting one for me, Tim. I think he is the quintessential example of the kind of signing you have to make to build a squad that wins things from your league at a prime age, not at an extravagant fee, not to go be some backup who warms the bench, but someone with the right mentality to fight and battle and knock on the door and make a position his. And he's played a lot and been very important. And now he's going to play as our starting striker in a Champions League semifinal against PSG at the Emirates. And how does he tune up for that? He says, I'm the man. I'm going to score a brace and show that I belong here. And this is exactly what you need. Someone with, people I think sometimes struggle to warm to him because he seems pissed off all the time. I want that. Yep. He's not so. Mikel even joked about it. He's like, he's always complaining about something. But clearly Mikel rates him or he wouldn't be in the team. We know that. He doesn't tolerate dissent. So there's something about Leo's mentality where he moans and whines and fights and bitches and complains in the right way to be a powerful and important part of the team. And he had a brilliant game. He's going to have a very important game to play next week, Tuesday. So I guess the only thing is what his future will be at Arsenal. And I think he's a player you could keep if you wanted to for another year, if he'd take a +1 onto his deal and continue to help us fight for something, because that's a really hard role to replace, as it turns out.
Yeah, it is. And to your point, he's almost perfect for it because of the things you illustrate there. The fact he is, it reminds me, I think just after he signed, I think it was Ramsdale was on one of those random podcasts that he seemed to be doing, and he talked about Trossard, didn't he? And he said he hasn't come here to be a squad player. He said he wants a shirt, he wants to start, and that's what you want. And that's why I think I've always been attracted to the Wiltord comparison. Like Wiltord was, I think, a bit like that, bit moody. Wenger played him on the right wing a lot. He didn't really want to play there, but he did it and he scored goals. And I think he was a slightly moody presence as well. And yeah, absolutely, he's been a terrific signing. He really, really has. Like, as that kind of 12th man, and he's playing centre forward, but like he's been playing on the left as well. And I'm sure it would have hurt him that he was only a sub for the two Real Madrid legs, and he's definitely going to start against PSG, and I think he's going to want to prove himself as well. He's the guy who scores against Porto last season. He scores a big goal against Bayern in the quarterfinal last season as well. So, he's got loads and loads of pedigree. He's a really good finisher as well, as we see again in this game, off both feet, and he has a big part in that second goal where he kind of just turns up on the right wing. Like he's one of those players who he's not amazing at anything, but he's good at everything, which I think makes him a really ideal kind of attacking squad player, particularly because he can play all three positions, he's played in that 8 role as well, hasn't he? Look at how important he was when Odegaard was out as well, when him and Havertz were kind of playing that kind of dual role as well. He's been such a kind of blessing. I do think, like, as a starter, he's probably a bit too inconsistent, but like as like a next man up, 12th squad player, 4th forward, whatever you want to call him, he's just been absolutely brilliant. And yeah, I get the impression he is, like, I say difficult on the training ground. I don't think difficult, but demanding. Definitely. And when I was at the training ground in January, and just about to go into the area where the academy kind of are and where the changing rooms are. That sounds really dodgy. I was doing an interview and I was being escorted there by a member of staff, so I wasn't just poking around the dressing rooms.
Better. Thanks for clarifying.
But it was quite funny because we just went in and the first team players were coming out for training. And it's just one of those kind of weird moments where, like, you're walking through a door and all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's Ben White and Saka and Trossard were walking side by side having a conversation. Listen, they walked past me for 3 seconds, But
But in those 3 seconds.
But in those 3 seconds, Trossard was having a very serious conversation with Bukayo Saka, and I and like professional, didn't look like a flat, but like, when something just makes an impression on you, just very, very briefly, you're like, wow, these are two serious guys.
Yep.
And, because I'm looking at it and I'm going, oh my God, there's Bukayo Saka and like Trossard, and they're it's like, it doesn't look like intense. That's the word I'd use. Like, they're walking out to training and they're talking about something, didn't hear any of it, no idea what they're talking about, but you're like, okay, these are serious guys. And yeah, Trossard definitely comes across as a serious, intense guy, and that's great.
Yeah. Same question, but about Kiwior. I don't want to go long on this, but quickly.
Mm-hmm.
This is a player who has shown that it is difficult to evaluate quote unquote backup center backs because they have a very, very tricky job of trying to stay locked into how to play a position that I think is dependent on getting your reps, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like getting your partnerships down, knowing how you each hold the line, when to hand off to your teammate to mark a man, or when it's your turn to go get him, and the intensity of duels and the tempo of the league. How fast is that forward, and can I get up to full speed as quickly as I need to? So much to it. And, candidly, just the pressure, playing under pressure. I think Clive calls it teacup, right? Thinking clearly under pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And Kiwior is definitely a guy that you can see when he doesn't play a lot and he comes in spots. Sometimes he doesn't always think clearly under pressure and has made some errors that have led to harsh evaluations. And I have certainly been one who's evaluated him harshly. As it turns out right now, he is playing at a very high level alongside William Saliba and Miles Lewis-Skelly. And I thought this was another assured game. The hard thing with Kiwior, Tim, you start a few games, you start at the Bernabeu, you start against Real Madrid, you play well. Do you want to stay behind Gabby for 36 of 38 Premier League games next season? This is what's hard about being a big club. When you're a big club competing for everything, you need great players behind your starters. But the great players behind your starters, are they prepared to be behind your starters at a big club, or would they rather go play in Serie A? I don't know. So I think all that matters right now is that Kiwior is playing with a lot of confidence and quality, and it's great to see, but it'll be interesting to see what that means for what he wants to do with his career moving forward.
Yeah, and look, the Gabriel we see now, that's not the Gabriel we had in 2020 or 2021. Like, one of the biggest things I think that's really catapulted him is the fact that he plays every single game, which I think in defence in particular, in those central areas, I think that really, really matters. And with Kiwior, yeah, I mean, I've always said, like, I just think it's really difficult to judge when you're not playing all the time. And look, if Kiwior does decide he wants to go in the summer because he wants to play more regularly somewhere else, yeah, all right, fair enough. It's going to be very difficult to replace left-footed centre-halves for a bit of a premium, but I mean, he might have got us another 5 to 10 million on the old price tag at the very least, and might bring some money in. But yeah, I think also because the team's a bit more settled around him as well. So, like, he knows Declan Rice is going to be there. He knows Odegaard's going to be there. He knows Merino's going to be there. Like, Martinelli's rounded into some form again. Like, the left side is kind of all there, and look like, it's a more settled team, I think, for him to come into. I've always really liked him on the ball. And actually, I think he's got more on the ball than Gabriel, because he's got that diagonal pass and that kind of clip up. I think he's a much better long passer. Don't get me wrong. I think Gabriel's probably better at pretty much everything else. But yeah, I kind of think when the team's calm a little bit, but he came in and played left back for 10 games last season. He was absolutely fine as well. So yeah, it's been a season kind of unfortunately where we've really had to rely on a lot of these guys, and some of them push their way in, like Lewis-Skelly, for example, or even Timber, really elbowing their way into the starting lineup. But I think Kiwior's been great, and the fans kind of chanted his name on Sunday, which I don't think I've heard before, and usually that's a good indication as well that that people are appreciating what you do, and it's kind of percolating, and everyone else is seeing it and appreciating it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great when players get great new songs. I love the new Martinelli song.
Yeah.
It's
The Bella
so
Ciao
good.
one, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, a final point on this, and I don't think we have to go much longer, but just, I don't know if you saw the comments after the game from Kieran McKenna. I haven't just made up a person there, have I?
Did he say something like did he say something that he didn't run by Liverpool first about
He did.
Arsenal being
He
really
did.
good?
He did not run his comments past Liverpool, and he's paid the price for that. Fair to say.
Yes.
But his comments were, "This is the highest standard we faced this season." Basically, that even before the red, this is the highest standard they've faced. Whether it's Olaena or Sandaberga or opposition coaches, like, the thing that drives me nuts about the war a trophy culture in football right now, war trophies. It's like any accolade, any celebration, anything that matters to your club doesn't matter unless you can hold a trophy up at the end of it. And I'm going to tell you something. I'd rather be us, whatever happens, than be Chelsea beating Soundgarden in the semifinals of, pardon me, Djurgården.
Soundgarden.
That's different. That's a different thing. Yeah, but you get my point, right? Like, these things matter to me. The way we're thought of, the way we're regarded, the way people see us. And this is another opposition manager basically confessing that we're just too good, that the level is too high. And I'm wondering how you reflect on all this. It hasn't always been the easiest season, but throughout, the people that play the game, the people that manage the game, have been unambiguous in declaring our level being the toughest they faced. I'm wondering what you make of that, and if maybe we need to really just appreciate that, how well prepared we are and how difficult we make for the opposition.
I definitely take a lot from that. Yeah, definitely. People who don't have agendas, really, and people who know football. And because I always go back to what Rob Edwards said last year about Arsenal, and I can't remember who it was that said it now. There was something this season. It was a player, I think, that said something about, like, the thing about Arsenal is they confuse you because basically because they're good at so many things. And so he was, I really can't remember which player it was, but he was kind of saying you're expecting to face one thing and you get another. And like Saka comes at you and then he's on his right foot and then sometimes he's on his left foot looking for a shot. And, essentially, I think what people are saying is that we're a really good all-round team, that we're good, we're elite at a lot of things. And really, the final thing that we all know is I think we just need that flat track bully striker who just scores against teams in the bottom half. Basically, I really think that's all we're missing.
Yep.
In terms of like the starting 11 and all of that, everything else to me is bits and pieces, is depth. Really, I think that's the thing we don't have. The guy who scores 20 goals a season and it's because he scores against the bottom 10 twice type thing. Like, but everything else, like, the different angles that Arsenal come at you and where players pop up and all of that, like, and I think obviously it's really good to get managers' insights into these things, but particularly because they're the ones who have to like their whole job is second guessing what you're trying to do and preparing your players to face it. And so many of them just seem to think like it's not that it's impossible, because obviously we've drawn loads of games this season, but how frustrating as well, even something like our set piece record must be. Like, if you're playing against Arsenal and you think, oh, we've done quite a good job of containing them in open play, but oh no, they've just crashed a corner in, and that's really frustrating. I do take a lot from that. I value it. I appreciate it. Not least because it's just away from a lot of the noise and the bullshit that I really try to tune out of, to be honest.
Yeah, and because we live in an era where, for whatever truth you think is your truth about your club, your team, whatever, there's a bunch of trolls on the internet who will tell you why it doesn't matter, doesn't count, isn't true. When the opposition tells you about yourself, I think that's powerful. Couple quickies here as we get ready to go. Ethan Nwaneri came on, got a goal. Granted, it was deflected, but honestly, I think it wasn't deflected. It's probably flying in. good for him. I think it's been a period where he's had to take a bit of a back seat, hasn't been able to be a big factor in the big games. And maybe his opposition have learned him a little bit. He's having to refine his game, but nice to see him get back on the score sheet. And what a return he's got this season for a 17/18-year-old.
Yeah, definitely. Is he close to double figure? Was that his 9th goal of the season, or was it his 8th?
Is it 8? Are we talking all comps?
All comps,
or...
yeah.
Let me check that, because
I've got a feeling that was his 9th, but 8 or 9, you're getting that from a 17, 18-year-old. You're doing pretty well.
Yeah, it's just incredible. Let's see, all comps. He has 4 in the Premier League, 3 in the League Cup, and 2 in the Champions League. So that's 9. Yeah. So, and was that his 4th or his 5th yesterday? Is that it been counting yesterday? I'd have to check.
Yeah, but he's looking good for double figures for the season. I'm sure that's a target he's got for himself.
What an incredible return at that age, right?
It's amazing. Maybe one of the, don't get me wrong, I don't really care about this, but one of the slightly unkind things that probably happened yesterday was the away fans chanting if Sterling scores were on the pitch.
That's great though.
Which, I'm sure he'll be fine. Probably not. Probably slightly demoralising for him. But if we'd got 9 goals out of Sterling this season, we'd have probably gone, yeah, that's roughly in the area I thought he might get. That's useful, not earth-shattering, not something we're going to go and make this permanent for, but thanks very much, see you later. But so effectively what Nwaneri has done, I think, has basically just he's doing the job that Sterling should have done for us and has just been completely unable to do. And that's quite the compliment. I'm pretty sure that Nwaneri would have grown up watching Raheem Sterling, and that will have some value for him. Even if this isn't the Raheem Sterling he probably grew up watching, I wouldn't mind betting that he watched him and liked him. And I think and hope he might have valued training with him at least, but he's done the job we thought Sterling would do. Basically, come in and out of the team. When Saka was out, he was the one that came in. At the moment, he's letting us get Saka off 20 minutes early, and he's getting his 20 minutes, which is useful in both directions. But and again, he scores the goal, and it's just business, isn't it? There's no wild celebration or anything.
If he scores the winner in the Champions League final and doesn't celebrate, I'm not sure I'm going to be okay with this anymore.
No, true. That would be too nonchalant, perhaps.
Too much,
but, really good. Him and Lewis Skelly have really, Nwaneri can look back on this season. You're right, it's not been completely linear, and, teams, I think, are aware of what he's going to try and do and all of that, but he can look back on this season, pivotal for his own development, but for the team, the job he's done has been amazing because, we lost Saka for 4 months and this 17, 18-year-old has given us 9 goals. I know a few of them have been League Cup goals and stuff, but, fair enough. That is, I think he might, because I think there's some stat, if he gets double figures, he'll be I think it'll only be Rooney and Owen have ever done a double figures season as teenagers, and he's going to be a teenager for the whole of next season as well, and nearly the whole of the season after that. So he's got crazy. He's got 2 other cracks at that as well. So it's crazy.
It's exciting. It is. And then just a final word for Nathan Butler-Yedeje, who gets his Premier League debut. Kudos to him. Nearly scores. Unlucky not to. I think it's well saved. Look, he's 22. He's out of contract in the summer. His future lies elsewhere. But, whenever a hailing kid gets on the pitch for his Premier League debut, it's special and we should celebrate it. So kudos to him.
Yep.
I will say that Clive's on Patreon tomorrow, Julien Laurent on Patreon on Wednesday, and then out eventually later. You can win a club level midfield seat ticket to ArsenalPSG. Just got to donate before Saturday, and you're eligible to win. Whatever you donate counts. We're going to crack £300,000 when it's all said and done, which is just absolutely extraordinary. Not just crack it, blow past it. Like I said, a wonderful sign of humanity in a time when you might otherwise be scrabbling around to find it. So thank you for that. And I will say, just if you want to get in touch, please do. Love you for being here. Love you for being a part of this community wherever you choose to be part of it. Tim, thank you for doing this. I know this one's a little late, but thanks for staying up we're getting this one out for you now, and it'll be like London buses. You'll have one on Patreon tomorrow morning. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure. And sorry I couldn't be on last week to kind of. Not only did I not get to be on, I only listened to the post Madrid pod yesterday because I was away with family. I didn't even get a chance to listen to all of that content. So I'm still getting there. I haven't listened to the one with Phil either, so I'm going to do that tomorrow. But yeah, great week. And hopefully there's a couple more of those left yet.
So not only contributing to being on the pod, not contributing to our numbers either. Thank you for that, Tim. I hope you enjoyed yourself in Madrid. To be fair, you may be the good luck charm, so we can't keep you away from the football. That's important. Okay, we're going to leave it there. My name's Elliot Smith. You can block me everywhere. You ain't gonna. We love you. And we will talk to you after Arsenal 10, pal. Snow.